Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT9, and BT9 offers us lots of new and powerful tools to build and iterate on some new and existing decks. And today's deck that I'm going to be taking a look at is going to be the BlackWarGreymon deck. So the BlackWarGreymon deck actually has two different variants that you could lean into, either a red base utilizing more Agumon based synergies, and that's going to be a more aggressive style of approach to the deck, or B, a black base and focused around two color synergies, and that's going to be a more mid-range and control approach to the deck. So I'm going to be going over both just to kind of show you the difference in those parts and pieces, and as always I'll have other cards that you could think about mixing in between both of them at the end of the video. So without further ado, onto the black side of things. Starting off with the Digitama, I'm going to be running only 4 copies of Hopmon. If you really wanted to run a 5th Digitama, you could. I would recommend Agumon, but I do want the consistency on the DP boost ability, just because we don't have a lot of actual ways to DP boost in black. So what this card is doing is, as long as we have a black tamer in play, then our Digimon get plus 1000 DP to make them as strong as we possibly can. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Chikurimon, so this is a flex spot, and this is only in the deck just to try to help stop some of the opponent's aggression, because he is a security Digimon, and he won't be affected by cards like Delicate Plan, so we'll actually be able to hold on to some of our security threats. And he's just in the deck to de-digivolve 1 to potentially take away the opponent's OTK. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Agumon. So Agumon is going to be a really good consistency tool for the deck, because his on-play ability lets us look at the top 4 cards of our deck and add 1 card with Greymon in its name and 1 card with Dragonkin in its traits from among them into our hand, and the rest go to the bottom. So he's just your stereotypical digger. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Tapirmon. So the black side of things does want to lean into 2-color Digimon, and this is a good card, an example of that, along with its tamer. So Tapirmon has the nice inheritable ability where during all turns, as long as this Digimon is 2 or more colors, then it gains plus 1000 DP to make our Digimon a little bit stronger, not only offensively but defensively as well. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Hawkmon. So Hawkmon is fulfilling a very similar role to Agumon. It's just, unfortunately, we can't utilize this card with our eggs, but we could still try to use this card as a really good digging tool, because its on-play ability states that we get to reveal the top 4 cards of our deck, add 1 2-color red card from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom, and a lot of our cards are, well, 2-color cards with red in it. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Greymon. So Greymon is going to be one of the defensive backbone tools for the deck to use, because its inheritable ability states that while you have a red Digimon in play, then this Digimon gains the blocker ability, so any of our higher level Digimon, because they're both part red and black, will be able to gain the blocker ability off of this card to act as a really good defensive tool. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of the promo Deltamon. So this is a really decent card for the deck to use, just because it's helping us pace our evolutions a little bit better. So he has the nice ability where during your turn, when this Digimon would digivolve into a Digimon with composite in its traits, or has 2 or more colors in it, then we get to reduce the cost of the Digivolution by 2, which means going into our higher stages, we could do that a little bit more efficiently for some ever so slightly off tempo for a level 4 Digimon. Then he has a nice inheritable ability that's acting as some good recursive removal, where when attacking, not limited to once per turn, for each of this Digimon's colors, then we get to delete 1 of the opponent's Digimon with DP of 3000 or less, rounding out what we want to be doing with this card to make our Digimon even more aggressively controlling. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Cyclonemon. So Cyclonemon is in the deck just because he has some really good synergy, because he is a 2-color Digimon that's part red, and he has Dragonkin in his traits to be searched off of Agumon, but he also has a pretty decent when attacking ability that's similar to Deltamon, where when we attack, not limited to once per turn, we get to delete 1 of the opponent's Digimon with 2000 DP or less to try to pick apart their rookies, as well as Deltamon. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of MetalGreymon. So MetalGreymon is another really good control tool for the deck to use, because when we Digivolve up into him, which we could reduce off of our Deltamon, then we get to de-Digivolve 1 onto one of the opponent's Digimon, which is already pretty annoying, but he also has the extra benefit where we then get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with 3000 DP or less, which is really powerful against armor-based decks because they do have protection against removal type of abilities. Then he has a nice inheritable ability to help our higher levels that control the opponent's field, where during your turn, while this Digimon has Dragonkin or Machine in its traits, then we also get to attack the opponent's unsuspended Digimon, so it just allows us to easily pick apart the opponent's field, and this in combination with BlackWarGreymon is just super powerful to get recursive removal in. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Megadramon. So Megadramon is one of the new additions into the deck, and it's a very welcome one because it's adding some more Tamer hate and Tamer removal. So just Digivolving up into this card allows us to delete one of the opponent's Digimon or Tamers with a play cost of 3 or less, so it could get rid of some of those cheaper, more efficient Tamers that are doing lots of recursive value, adding some extra elements of control in that BlackWarGreymon already wants to lean into. Then on top of that, he has a nice inheritable ability for our higher level Digimon to take advantage of, again doubling down on that removal, where if this Digimon has Machine or Dragonkin in its traits, then we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon or Tamers with a play cost of 3 or less to consistently try to have extra forms of control, not only just for their Digimon, but their Tamers as well. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of BlackWarGreymon. So BlackWarGreymon is still going to be the key center point to big boss monster of the deck, because his when Digivolving ability adds extra control on top of the control we already have, where if this Digimon has a red Digimon in its Digivolution source, we get to select the opponent's Digimon, and if this Digimon has a black Digimon in its Digivolution source, then we get to select the opponent's Tamers. Then of the chosen cards, we get to delete those cards up to a play cost of 6 or less, which is really good for added control on the opponent's Digimon and Tamers, which is something we're already trying to lean into anyway. Then on top of that, he has a nice Alterns ability that's acting as a both offensive and defensive tool, where once per turn, when an opponent's Digimon is deleted, then we get to unsuspend this Digimon. So whether we're attacking and triggering our when attacking abilities to delete the opponent's Digimon, or if we're utilizing this in combination with Greymon to form a really big blocker, then it allows us to block multiple times, or even if we swung out and the opponent's Digimon gets deleted in security, then it restands to be able to block again. So it's just a very versatile ability for us to use to be able to try to control the opponent's field while aggressing at them at the same time. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Gaiomon. So Gaiomon is going to be the supporting mega for the deck because, well, he's another Dragonkin that's in red and black for us to take advantage of. And on top of that, this Digimon is also treated as having Greymon in its name, so that way we could still utilize it with our Greymon-based synergies. But even though it does have a relatively high evolution cost, it has the alternative Digivolution condition where it could Digivolve for 2 on top of our BlackWarGreymon, and it has the nice ability of Security Attack +1 and Reboot, so that way we, again, can use this card offensively and defensively. And then on top of that, he has a nice when Digivolving ability, where if this Digimon has a black card in its Digivolution source, then one of the opponent's Digimon de-Digivolves, and if this Digimon has a red Digimon in its Digivolution source, then it gains the Blitz ability to, again, be really powerful and annoying for the opponents to deal with. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Kongou. So Kongou is kind of an anti-meta card. It could really be any card you feel like you want to be using, but I do like Kongou because of the flexibility on its abilities. So it has the nice main ability where until the end of the opponent's next turn, your opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 7 or less can't attack, and cards can't be added into either player's security. So it's just a really good card at shutting out a lot of low-level aggression and recovery. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Black Memory Boost. So Black Memory Boost is another consistency tool on top of the fact that it could help us gain some instant tempo later. So we get to reveal the top 4 cards of our deck and then add a black Digimon from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. Well, the majority of our cards are black or part black, so we have the ability to just pick and choose whatever we feel like we want that's revealed off of this card, and after we use it, it stays in the battle area for us to use the delay ability to gain 2 memory at a later turn. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Maki. So Maki is a really good card and is acting basically as the Nokia replacement. So what Maki is doing is she has the on-play ability where we get to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck and add a Tapirmon and 1 2-color Digimon with black from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. So at worst, she's just going to be hitting one of our 2-color Digimon, which there's a whole lot of, and at best, she's also going to be adding a Tapirmon into our hand, which is really good because it's a rookie for us to find to try to start our stacks with. Then, on top of that, like Nokia, she's just going to be helping with the tempo after we play her, where during your turn, when your Digimon would Digivolve into a Digimon that has 2 or more colors, then we get to suspend this tamer to reduce the cost of that evolution by 1 to make our cards a little bit more easier to use. And then the last card of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Hiro. So Hiro is going to be the deck's dedicated memory fixing tamer to make sure that we have at least 3 memory at the start of our turn to be working with to make our plays as efficient as we possibly can. Then he has a nice secondary ability for us to take advantage of to help DP boost our Digimon because Black has a little bit of a hard time with that. So during your turn, when you attack with a Digimon that has Gamamon in its name or is level 5 or higher, then we get to suspend this tamer to give one of your Digimon plus 2000 DP for the turn, so that way we could try to help make our Digimon as powerful as we possibly can, especially our BlackWarGreymon trying to attack into the opponent's unsuspended Digimon. Or just trying to live through security checks, it doesn't really matter, it's just a good tamer for the deck to use. And then as far as the red side of the deck goes, the low end is going to be different and the top end is going to be relatively similar. So you're going to be using 4 copies of Koromon for the draw engine because you're going to be running more of a Greymon-based deck. And as far as continuing with the draw engine, Greymon is just a good 5th Digitama to help do something very similar because we're only realistically going to be aggressing with our higher stages more often than not. Then as far as our low end goes, we're going to be using the BT5 Agumon as a good searching tool to be able to dig out our Greymons and Omnimons. Then to continue with the searching, we also have Agumon X Antibody that helps us look for our X Antibody option card and our Greymon/Omnimons. So again, just more consistency on top of the alternative evolution cost of Digivolving on top of our Agumons to be able to make large stacks with. Then the primary Agumon we want to play off of our Nokia outside of our BT5 Agumon is going to be the Promo Agumon for his on-play ability to be able to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with 3000 DP or less. But if you don't want to or have access to this card, it is just another flex spot, and I would recommend just running another Agumon in its place. And another really good solid way to help DP boost, just because red has easier time at DP boosting than black, is going to be another promo Agumon to give our Greymons plus 2000 DP, which the majority of our cards are going to be Greymon based. But again, this is another flex spot, and you could just replace this with any other Agumon that's just trying to DP boost. Then in the red side, you still want to lean a little bit into Greymon just because, well, it is a Greymon still, and having that blocker ability for some defensive capabilities is still really, really nice on top of 2-color synergy. Then we have the BT5 version of Greymon to help tempo our Digivolutions, especially in combination with Nokia, because when he's Digivolving off of just an Agumon, so unfortunately this doesn't work with X Antibody, but it does work with all of our other Agumons, then we get to gain 1 memory, and then with Nokia we could reduce the memory to basically make it a free evolution. And on top of that, its inheritable ability is just helping DP boost with our Greymon-based synergies. And then one of the best level 4s that we could use for the deck is going to be Greymon X Antibody, just because he can Digivolve off of a Greymon, so it doesn't matter if it's our red Greymon or our black Greymon, we still can use it and use our other cards relatively efficiently. Then on top of that, he has a nice All-Turns ability for our higher level Digimon to take advantage of, acting as some solid protection, where during all turns, if in effect it would try to delete this Digimon or add it back to our hand or deck, as long as this Digimon's name contains Greymon or Omnimon, then instead we could prevent it from leaving play by discarding 2 of its inheritable sources with the same level. So it's just a really good way to try to help keep our big stack because, well, we are a big stack based deck. And then to help with the overall aggressive push of the deck, we're going to be running some Greymon from the starter deck just to give it security attack plus, but if you don't have access to this card, then just any other Greymon would be really nice, just to be able to use it with our Greymon-based synergies, but this is the more optimal card for adding extra aggression. Then you're still going to be running the MetalGreymon because this card is still super good in combination with blackwar, no matter which version of the deck you're going to be running. And because it is still a MetalGreymon, we also have MetalGreymon X Antibody to, again, help with the overall offensive push capabilities of what the deck is trying to do. So he can Digivolve for 0 on top of other MetalGreymons, which is really good for helping build bigger stacks, on top of the fact that he has a nice when Digivolving ability of gaining security attack +1, and if he Digivolved off of a MetalGreymon or has the X Antibody option in its inheritables, then this Digimon also gains plus 3000 DP until the end of the opponent's turn to be able to make our Digimon more defensive, in case we're utilizing the BlackWarGreymon to give our Digimon blocker as well as the security attack plus to help with the overall offense and DP of our Digimon. And then in either version of the deck, you could run Chimeramon to be able to DNA off of 2 level 4s and help color fix and control the opponent's field. So when we Digivolve up into it, ideally through DNA off of 2 level 4s, then we get to place a level 5 or lower Digimon from our trash underneath this Digimon's Digivolution source to be able to build a very powerful stack because we have some really good inheritable abilities we want to use. And then up to 4 of the opponent's Digimon gets minus 1000 DP for each color this Digimon has, which more often than not is going to be 3 colors. So a minus 3000 that lasts until the end of their turn is super powerful. And this card is mostly used just for the DNA capabilities and to help fix our stacks. Then in the red side, you're still going to want to run a BlackWarGreymon just because, well, he is the center point of the deck to try to be super control-y and try to be super offensive all at the same time. And Gaiomon is still going to be another really good card for us to use just because, again, we're already playing BlackWarGreymon, he's still considered a Greymon, and Security Attack Plus and Reboot just make him really appealing on top of Digivolve and Blitz that I already mentioned before. Then as far as the red options go, you're going to want to lean a little bit more into offensive side and try to punch the opponent's security as hard as you possibly can. So a Delicate Plan is just a really good option to try to help turn off the opponent's security threats, mostly from their options. Even though we do have some protection, we want to keep that to prevent them from using options from their hand. And then with the red side of things, you're obviously going to want to try to play the red memory boost for extra consistency and tempo. Then Hiro is still going to be a really good tamer, but you could swap Hiro out for some various other tamers depending on the types of cards that you have access to and what you actually want to try to gain out of the deck. And then with the red side, instead of Maki, you're going to be playing Nokia because we have access to a slew of different Agumons, and they're doing a very similar style of thing where we're just trying to reduce the cost of our Digivolutions to make playing our cards and using them a little bit easier. And then there's just a whole bunch of different tech and tools that you could incorporate just because both strategies are fairly well-rounded in terms of the different possibilities that you could take them in. So with the black side of things, you could lean into Toy Agumon as another really good level 3 inheritable, or Tsunorizumon as a more ideal inheritable, just because Toy Agumon gives Reboot, Tsunorizumon gives Security Attack Plus, and Tsunorizumon also has the benefit of having a passive to help give Piercing, to help with the overall aggression of what the deck can possibly do, on top of the fact that you do have just a slew of different anti-meta rookies in both red and black to try to take advantage of, and you also have Monochromon as a good budget replacement to Deltamon in case you don't have access to Deltamon just because it's another 2-color card, and this is also going to be a nice low-level blocker in case you need that. That could be boosted with Tapirmon to be a little bit stronger. Then on the red side of things, you have a slew of different Agumons that you could be using on top of a slew of different Greymons that you could be using, all because the red side does favor more Agumon and Greymon-based synergies. Then as some good alternative level 6s that you could run the BT1 WarGreymon for extra aggression. Same thing with the promo BlackWarGreymon for his Digiburst to be able to multi-swing. And you even have access to other really good MetalGreymons. So you do have the Classic Collection MetalGreymon to help give your Digimon piercing, on top of the fact that you have MetalGreymon Alteris mode to be able to use in combination with your other MetalGreymons, on top of the added protection ability that you could use with this card. Then, as far as some really good level 7s, Red and Black has access to a slew of different ones, just because all of our cards are going to be red, black, or a combination of the two. So you have access to Dexmon, because Dexmon is absolutely insane against go-wide strategies. So while you're trying to wall the opponent out with the black side of things, then you could just Digivolve or Hard Slam a Dexmon to be able to control and mitigate the opponent's field from that point forward. Then we do have access to a whole bunch of different Omnimons. I'm going to just focus on BT5 Omnimon, just because the Blitz ability on top of the Unsuspend just makes him a really good game finisher. And we do have Omnimon Sword Defeat as a potential security threat, on top of another cheap and efficient Omnimon to be able to control the opponent's field in various different ways, and we could use the X Antibody option card to be able to lean into our X Antibody based synergies a little bit more, with even an Omnimon X Antibody that we could possibly utilize. Then we do have a slew of different removal options in both red and black, which is kind of why I'm highlighting Dark Gaia Force, because Dark Gaia Force is both colors, so it's just another easy card for us to use in the deck. And on top of that, we do have Gravity Crush, more so for the red side of things, to be able to gain some instant memory. You could actually use Parabolic Junk if you wanted to with the black side of things, but it's not necessarily needed. Then if you wanted to think about utilizing win rate 60% or various other plugins, then you have access to do so as well, and you even have some various other tamers that you could run in the deck, just to try to help with the overall aggression. So you do have Taikimiya to give your large stacks security attack plus, just because, well, the majority of our high end is going to be red and black. On top of the fact that we have Marcus to interact more so with the red side of things for our Greymon-based synergies to help us gain some extra memory when we're attacking with our Greymons. And we have Cool Boy if you want to lean more into the X Antibody side to, again, just act as another good tamer to help with our tempo, efficiency, and consistency. But yeah, that's just my interpretation of what BlackWarGreymon is going to be doing in BT9, both for the red side of things and the black side of things, and I think either side is perfectly viable, and they both have their own sets of pros and cons, and I think both of them are really fun and interesting decks that you could take in a whole bunch of different directions, making BlackWarGreymon just a really fun deck to be utilizing as a whole, just because of the sheer amount of customization and flexibility that you have in terms of your tech tools and options. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.